Recovery Radio. Live from the heart of the downtown east side, it's Talk Recovery Radio with Giuseppe Ganci and Darren Gaylor on Vancouver's Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. From the streets to the studio, bringing you addiction recovery stories from real people with lived experience and real experts on today's issues. Tune in live every Thursday, noon to 1. Powered by New West Recovery. Real people, real issues, real life. Talk Recovery Radio.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Recovery Radio. My name is Giuseppe, and this is Darren Gaylor. Hi, Darren. How are you?
Very well, Giuseppe. Welcome to the show. Good to be here on Talk Recovery, as always.
Yeah,
Co-op
always
radio.
good. Powered by New West Recovery. Yeah, eight years of shows, 8 seasons. Lots of guests, lots of listeners. Our YouTube channel is picking up speed. There was a little lull there in the beginning, but if you're watching us on YouTube and so forth, hit subscribe. And if you're listening to us on one of our restreams from iTunes to SoundCloud to you name it, just hit a like and all that kind of stuff. So we really appreciate people listening to the show afterwards. But we're live in this forum on Facebook, and someone got hit by a car again. So if you're not from the Vancouver area where this show's from, or New West actually, but there's the downtown east side, Main and Hastings area. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a month by now, somebody got hit by a car. It's not the first time someone got hit by a car by any means, but highly publicized. Somebody got hit by a car, all caught on camera and all that kind of stuff. Pretty horrific sight. Today, word is somebody else got hit by a car. I can't verify if they passed away. The comments seem to look like the person had passed away from the injuries on the scene. So condolences, obviously, to whomever that was and whatever their story is. It brings the question, though, like, what do we do about these areas? So, the downtown east side for Vancouver is, basically the community hit hardest by addiction, and people are on the streets all day long, on the sidewalks, using the speed limit already is 30 kilometers an hour. They reduced that years ago. There's a call out, which I think is getting some steam, to like shut Hastings down and make it they're using the word green space, which I like. I don't think it's going to be a green space, but a pedestrian space. So because, it's just the way it is. People are under the influence, intoxicated. I don't even know if this person was under the influence or intoxicated. You're assuming it is. It was early hours in the morning. That's because of the neighborhood. So apologies for making that assumption, but I'm just assuming. I don't know, Darren. Like, do we start closing streets down?
I mean, I don't know. It's a tragic area. It has lawlessness, right? Because it just the environment and it's homelessness, it's poverty, it's addiction, and yet it's also like the area that holds like all the resources, all the harm reduction resources. So it's sort of like this this environment, this this network that, I mean, what, you're just going to move it somewhere else? I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, it's on a path of what was a very vibrant street, and I mean, yeah, you got to consider the headspace. Like, it's not an area where you hit the crosswalk button and wait. Like, it's just not, and that's not an offense to the type of people. Like, there's oftentimes I don't wait for the crosswalk either. That's not. It just seems like a silly situation. Like again, to save lives, we're gonna have to close down the street. Like, but we're not talking about the causation of this whole area in the first place. And government's been behind the ball on that one for decades, really. but it is the area, like I said, where people can access all their addiction needs and also their harm reduction needs, so it sort of keeps people there. It's an environment. You go down there and there's just countless stories of people I know. You go down there for a trip to score dope, and all of a sudden you're a resident of the downtown east side.
Yeah.
But there's women's shelters, detoxes, homeless shelters, like I said, on-site, in-site. Like, do you shut it down and build like that, more of that?
And then is it going to be a big tent city on the street? I mean, I just don't. I mean, the idea of it being a green space is, I'll admit, I was just like, come on now, it's not going to be this organic green space with people sitting, on benches, reading the paper, or scrolling their phone. It's whatever's happening on the sidewalk is going to be happening on the road. So, the mayor's got a big task. He's got to figure that stuff out. Some conversations are about adding a barricade in the middle, so you don't cross the street, and you make it high enough so people don't cross the street, and forcing them. I think that would probably be the best plan. Is to do that is do that first, but I don't even know if there's room for that, because it would turn Hastings down to a 1-lane road in and out, because you'd lose some space, and it's a thoroughway. So lots of issues there. Again, condolences to the individual that's lost. It's just if the drugs aren't going to get you, now cars are hitting people all over the place in the downtown east side. So more to be revealed. Take a look at Twitter. Everyone's got their ideas on how to fix it. So can you imagine if Twitter ruled the world? Maybe it does rule the world. I don't know. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio. We come to you every Thursday, usually live. Sometimes we do replays because Darren and I need a break. And special thanks to Jordan, who books our guests. If you want to be on our show, have an idea, comments, questions, compliments, reviews, hate mail, you can send it to Darren. No, you can send it to community@lastdoor.org. And we're always looking for new conversations. So every week we talk with people about addiction and mental health and recovery stories. This week's no different. We do have 2 guests on the show at the same time. So Darren, who do we get to talk recovery with today?
I'm excited. We get to talk recovery with 2 special guests from, as we say, across the pond, in Suffolk, in Essex, England. We have Lester Morse, and joining us also is Sonia Pewter. Welcome to the show, guys. Really happy to have you.
Thank you.
So, Sonia's gonna share more of a personal story, and by the looks of it, one that's just not all tragic and sadness, but hope and resiliency as well, which is we just love that part of the show. First, I'm gonna talk with you, Lester. You're the director of Rehabs UK and East Coast Recovery Online projects and community programs, have countless success stories. You are the voice behind the Recovery Revolution podcast, so I'd like to hear about that. Worked in addiction treatment for over 30 years, founded Sober Living, ran a 45-bed residential rehab for 15 years. I mean, you're doing it. What got you inspired for this type of work? What's your backstory there?
Well, whereabouts are you guys? Vancouver,
Canada,
yes.
Yeah, I got sober in 1991 in BC in island called Galliano.
Okay.
Wow.
Between you and Victoria Island. I was there for 3 years. I was kind of on the run from the cops and the criminals and everybody. And
well, you ran far.
Yeah. I was trying to. Well, I had a friend who went to Canada, and so I'd done a geographical, and he said there's this island where there's no cops on it called Galliano. So I thought I won't get arrested there. So I headed in that direction. There was about 400 people living there at the time and no cops. I think it's grown a bit now, but
right.
started my new life there and ended up reaching a rock bottom on the island and ended up being taken to a meeting by Jerry Doucette. I don't know if you know him. He was a bit of a rock star in Canada at the time. He was sort of plotting up there, out there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just a little meeting in a little cabin in the woods on a Friday and on a Monday and Friday, and I think I just took to it like a duck to water. I was only 25 years old at the time, just sort of completely broken and like looking for a new life. I got sort of come at the end of my life, I think, and the beginning of it at the same time. So I feel like I was sort of born again in Canada, and stayed there for like say 3 years. It's a pretty rock solid group. They like believed in the big book and program and all that, so they installed a lot of that in me.
So, you had enough of a reprieve to get sober for 3 years, and then what? Did you figure you'd go back and face?
Well, I was living there legally.
Right.
I was too scared to go back for the first 3 years, and then I was living there illegally on the island for like 2.5 years, I think. And I just thought, you know what, it's like a big
It's time to go home. Time to go home. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a big open rehab for me. It was like fantastic. I mean, even I was living in this lodge that was just taken over by the Triads at the time, and they were all exiting Hong Kong to buying properties in Canada and all that. And so they just bought this place I was living in. So started to work for them for a little bit, and then but when I bottomed out, I was surrounded by pretty much everybody in the vicinity that I was in, about 10 of them. They were all in the fellowship, but so they kept on going on about these meetings. I just didn't know what I was talking about. And then Jerry took me to this AA meeting after I bottomed out, and it's like I already knew everyone in there. I probably was living in the most densely populated 12-step little area in the world on this little island. It was quite amazing, really. And like I say, they just give me a lot of support, a lot of fellowship. One of the things I found about Canada at the time, I felt like coming from England, I felt like no one cared. That's how I felt. I mean, I wasn't sort of bottoming out, and I was a pain in the arse and a little criminal, all the rest of it. But I just felt like people really cared for me there, and I think that's why I stayed there for so long, because there's that there was that we love you till you love yourself sort of mentality in that fellowship. So, you know, I always had someone to talk to, always somewhere to go, and I just really loved it. It was probably one of the most special times in my life, that 3 years. It was like being in heaven. It's like I used to wake up every day thinking I was a little boy dreaming. It didn't feel real. It was so wonderful part of my life, you know, going from complete despair to learning about, you know, the program and having a spiritual experience and being in such a beautiful setting. It really was like a very special, I think, you know, I would like to write a book about all the adventures and the wonderful time and the fondness of memory that, you know, that I had in that place. But after 3 years, you know, like I said, I was there illegally. I thought I'd come back to England and get my citizenship sorted out and go back again, but it never worked out that way. Funny enough, I don't know how you guys feel about God, but I just worked out today, right? I've got so much going on in my life, and I just realised that, and I think just today, I think this is going to be my new saying, is that I just worked out that my plan B is God's plan A. So when I finally give up my plan A and go over to God's plan B, it turns out that it was the way it was meant to run all along. So I kind of think that was it. That was my sort of. It did feel like I was led there to learn what I learned, to get cared for, to get healed, to come back to England 3 years later, which was very difficult, because I ended up back in a place where there was meetings but no program. You know, they thought doing the steps was going to this meeting on a Friday night, reading the 12 and 12, and then all giving their opinion. And they thought, if you're doing that, you're kind of like doing the steps. And so, you know, I started to do sort of step groups with people, and they were very successful. People really noticed the change in everybody. And, you know, it was sort of shocking to me. I was just saying to people, look, let's just do what it says in the book. Let's go to meetings. Let's, you know, do everything we think we're meant to do just for 90 days, and let's see what happens. And you
Yeah,
know,
lots to unwrap here, and the one part about your plan A, plan B. I mean, that's part of just starting your recovery journey. Is when you get to a place where you realize the first thought that comes to your mind is probably the last thing you should do to respond to people, places, and things, and that's why you have a support group. Because usually, plan B, which is what you never thought of, is the path that's not going to get you either arrested or in detox or
And it
some
doesn't
kind of
even have to
institution.
be
Yeah.
God's. It
Yeah,
doesn't even
yeah,
have to
yeah,
be
yeah,
God's
yeah. It's
plan.
just
It
not
just
your
could be
first
somebody
thought.
else.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody
Part
else's.
of the show too, we wanted to talk about how, like, what's going on in the UK and what's going on in Canada, and what's the difference and all that. But I think before we really get into that too, and into Sonia's story, I have a question for you, Lester, because you shared a bit of your personal story here. That was, about 30 years ago, I'm assuming, from what I read. Things have changed. That people don't go to rehab for 3 years anymore. I mean, even since I've only been around for about 15 years, in this environment. And, when I was here, like, average stay was 9 months to a year. Just in the last 15 years, it's like average stay is between 45 days and 75 days, So I don't know what your programs do, because I know you have a treatment center as well.
well, with
Do
the
you think?
treatment
Do you
centre,
do you do you think we're? Do you think with that? I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think, especially in the States where it's 28 days the average stay, like, do you think that's why we're in an addiction crisis? And then I don't know what your overdose crisis is, but we call it an addiction. At least I do.
well,
Do you think
we're on
that's
our
why we're in an
ninth,
addiction
we're on
crisis?
our ninth executive year of rising death rates because of addiction, and we're probably looking at our 10th year.
Yeah.
And do you think it's because we're not taking the time to heal? Like people used to go to, like, there's collages. This is a treatment center as well. Like, there's collages here with people that are like, they lived here for a year to 2 years too. We don't really do that anymore. So do you think, why do you think we're heading in this
Well,
direction?
personally, I think because most of the funding, there's more funding now than there's ever been in history. There's more services than there's ever been in history. They have, we lost our residential rehab, which is why we've gone online, because they just cut the funding and decimated us.
What does that mean, decimated us, to people that don't
destroyed? They just destroyed a lot of the recovery. So again, I think you get the harm minimalisation versus the abstinence, and I guess that's the same everywhere. One should go with the other, but I think just a lot of the money gets spent on harm minimalisation, which I think is often just treating the symptoms and not actually treating the addiction. And so I think you're just getting a lot of older dead drug addicts. They're just older when they die, I think. And so I just don't think there's enough treatment. And again, it's like, because we worked in what we call statutory in England, which is like, we were the lower end. We set it up purposely to be able to give people 9 months or more and build fellowship. But nobody funded the last 3 months, so we had to find ways of funding that. And the second 3 months was very low pay, so we had to subsidise that with private sector. And
I just want to jump in with a question on what you just said. So Darren, I know you got lots of questions, but so in Canada, when you say what you say, Lester, you're preaching to the choir. But when you say that, Lester, the number one response is, well, what you're talking about, Lester, isn't evidence-based. How do you respond to that?
Whose evidence? I've got 30 years of evidence, but not scientific. If you want scientific evidence, you'll have to go and speak to the people the government are paying and giving you the evidence. But what evidence? Show me the evidence. I could say the same thing. Show me the evidence. We've had more funding from the government. There's more services than ever before. There's more money being spent than ever in the history, and we've got the 9th consecutive years of death rates. Now, I've never seen a statistic on suffering, so I'm concluding. Now, I haven't got a scientific team, so I can only conclude on, what I see with my eyes and what I see in the reality that I live in. That if you've got the highest death rates, then that concludes that our mental health services are failing, the prison system's failing,
How
all
dare you
systems are
say
failing.
that?
Well, it's a bit different. I think that's the difference between England and
I agree with you
Canada.
100%. I agree.
It's
We
like the
call
whole
it,
system's failing.
yeah,
It's just
No,
obvious.
it's
But
it's
again,
the same system.
yeah. But again, it's
Giuseppe and
like,
I
yeah.
have been complaining and talking about this exact scenario, and I mean, on a weekly basis we do our show. We've been looking at the death toll, and it's just keeps rising and keeps rising and keeps rising. And you know, our downtown east side, which we were mentioning, it has some of the most, right, the best harm reduction resources in the world all around, and in that specific area.
yeah, but it's been harm reduction since they've been doing that. They keep
Yeah.
saying that, you know, and again, I know it's kind of like, I know it's like the Catholics and the Protestants, isn't it? The harm reduction.
It is, isn't it? Yes. Oh
And
my
again,
gosh.
I get it, and you know, they're all the professionals. They're all the ones with all the funding and the science and all, because they're being government funded, and all they're the ones in control of offering all the statistics back to the government. But on the ground, you know, I just can only go by what my own experience is. So
Yeah, it's like the emperor's wearing no clothes. It's like, does anybody see what's happening here? Like, we're spending how much money a
Yeah.
day, and this is what we get, and this is what you're calling healthcare, and this is what, you know, we used to build, you know, well, I hate the word projects, but we used to build buildings with houses for people, and now we're building little containers, shipping containers, and calling that housing, and you know, little tiny single occupancy rooms and calling it housing, and it's
yeah.
unbelievable. So one thing that we love to talk about is, you know, a recovery oriented response, recovery oriented
Well,
harm
so I think
reduction,
I've come to
builds
realise,
recovery capital, and
yes,
and there's, you know, there's Dr. David Best in the UK. I'm not sure if you know him. If you do, great. If you don't, look him up. He's got lots of research on recovery oriented systems of care and recovery capital. I mean, he's just brilliant over in the UK. You know, we want to bring Sonia into the show with her lived experience and so forth. You know, but one thing I did want to, before we go into there, is, and then Darren can bring on Sonia, is Lester. So you're in a treatment center providing as well. So are there a lot of funded beds for longer term treatment?
this is what's happened to us. We had a brilliant treatment centre, because based on that, we believe that, you know, you've got to put people in a recovery environment. It transmits from, it's about developing neural pathways in people by creating an environment. So we were very successful. There was no doubt about that. But all around us, everybody could see that the model that we had was super successful. That's all the feedback we got in a very difficult environment. But we created a very strong recovery environment that paid incredible dividend. When we got cut back, we lost. Eventually, just about 4 months ago, we closed our residential because we just couldn't stand the pressure of the over-regulation, the finances. You know, it's a long story, because we started in the public sector, which is very low pay. They cut our funding in 50% overnight, and then we had to try and make it into the private sector, which was already monopolised by some pretty big and wealthy other investors building rehabs. It's an incredible business, addiction treatment as well. It's probably one of the best cash businesses you can be in. But we couldn't quite make it across the bridge. But for me, it was all about what you're talking about. It took years to build up that recovery environment. Now, even the town that we're in, already they're starting to notice a drop off of people in meetings, people going into recovery. We were filling up, you know, the recovery capita around us, but you can't get the government, the local authorities, they don't understand. They're governed by political mandates. So their mind is totally the opposite. It's like I say, it's like being a Protestant talking to the Catholics. In 2015 in England, David Cameron, the first time in our government, they said you could use the word recovery, and then they pretty much told all the harm minimalisation organisations, you now have to do recovery. Well, that was like telling the Catholics you've got to be Protestants. It's a belief. it's a belief, and if you believe in recovery, then you're going to start asking people to do certain things, and you can see the outcomes. But they're not outcome orientated in our country, and I'm pretty sure that it's not the same in yours. Their policy procedure out is what they put first. They're not so bothered about outcomes. And so because we created a centre where we were getting good outcomes, because people's brains were healing and they were redeveloping and they were getting empowered and they were breaking free from the dependency, not just from the drugs and alcohol, but from the government and the state massive dependency that they keep creating for everybody.
So I really want to get Sonia in there, but I gotta ask. So we're part of the health, like we have funded beds where I work. So like, how do you just lose? Like, did everybody lose fundings? Like
Yes,
how did was it just like frog in a boiling pot of water? Is that the scenario? I don't even know what that saying is. Because like, I mean, people like, oh, they would never, like the goal of harm reduction was never to, you know, destroy the recovery community that existed. It was always supposed to work along. That's, you know, harm reduction was built in Vancouver as well as part of, you know, this global environment. And you know, the people I work for were around when they had, you know, 30 years ago when harm reduction was starting to be built. So now we're like, you know, we get lots of bureaucracy here as well. So was there no like people in recovery, like campaign, like this is Recovery Day in our community. There's about 50,000 people showed up. You know, we've been doing, it was our 10th anniversary this year for Recovery Day. Stages, music, like just it was just off the hook. Like if they ever tried to take our funding away, like there would be like, I wouldn't say all of them would show up, but there'd be a large portion.
Yeah, I don't know
How does that happen?
Well, they fund local, each area as they have like a drug and alcohol agency that would have won a contract, and they get all of the funding and they decide whether that funding goes to rehab or not. But during austerity, they got cut back like about 19%. But because we were rehabs, they see were too expensive, they cut us back 50%.
So I think my question, I think my question then is, in hindsight, now that this has happened, what do you think? So it doesn't happen to us. Maybe any suggestions? What would you have done differently?
I tried. See, that didn't destroy me, but it put so much pressure on us. And then I had to try and to get into the private sector, because there's a lot of money in the private sector, but I didn't realize I wasn't geared for that. And so it was quite a big bridge, but it was, you know, most of the referrals you were getting then weren't from local authorities, they were from the internet, and that had been pretty much monopolized by certain organizations. So, and then referrals, so it was very difficult to keep enough people in your rehab to stay open. But it wasn't even that finished us, if I'm honest. It was, I mean, look, I'm not saying I didn't make mistakes myself, but it was just a very difficult environment. Now, you know, last year they put out a report from Dane Black, who did, she wrote a report from the government of what happened to a lot of the rehabs and the recovery because of the cutbacks that they made. And she was the one in her report that said that they were decimated. So everything she wrote in her report that happened to us. So to give you an idea, it wasn't just a rehab where people would come and do 28 days. The rehab that we built, they could stay for 9 months and longer. So we had lots of back to work programs. We had gift shops, coffee shops, wood cutting, car sales. We had maintenance teams, domestic teams. You know, we had a lot of projects that there was no funding for, that we were funding.
And what was the name of the doctor that wrote that report? I want to look that up for sure. What was
Dame
Carol Black.
Carol Black? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, there's 2 reports. If you read the first one and then the recommendations, but I think in England, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but it's like you've got the sort of the public sector and the private sector. And they
Yeah,
try
addiction
and
addiction is definitely a two-tiered
yeah,
healthcare
they try
system.
and they
You
try
know,
and
if you're a doctor or a nurse and you're addicted to heroin, you'll probably get sent to and paid for to go to an abstinence-based treatment center. But if you're a street worker or you're somebody that's on welfare, you'll get given harm reduction. And people are not fighting that fight. And I try to say it whenever I can. Like if that was the same for cancer, like there would be a revolt. If you were a doctor or nurse with cancer, the goal is remission. If you're on welfare and you have cancer, well, the goal is here's some hydromorphine. Hopefully you don't feel any pain while you die. That's what's happening with addiction, and people are not understanding that until their loved ones need help and they're asked for a credit card or wait in line. So you know that's you know and you know, I try to be on as many stakeholder groups, and we do recovery day to make sure there's not even an opportunity to take away funding from recovery oriented systems of care, because I'm going to read Dr. Carol Black's information. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio. We come to you live every Thursday, noon to 1. Special thanks to Vancouver Co-op Radio that gives us an hour of space on 100.5 FM. And we're talking recovery with two people from the United Kingdom and hearing their personal story and lived experience. Darren, who's our other guest in waiting?
I mean, yeah, Sonia's been on with us here as well. And, you know, I just got to say, the heartache, Lester, for you, that, I mean, you know, having built this thing and worked and seeing the success stories, I mean, it sounds like you're doing the next thing that you can do, going, you know, completely online with East Coast Recovery. But like you mentioned something of that 9 months in residential care to build fellowship. I mean, that's just one of the components that can't be done online in true human connection form. And, you know, so to bring this back over to Sonia, I just wonder, like, rewind your story and what would your options or story have been, do you think, if the only thing you could afford or have access to was something online? I mean, would you even have had a home environment and a computer to access this situation? And so what did it mean for you where you were at in your life to have, you know, Lester and these residential programs available for you?
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. And I think that I need, as Lester was just saying there, I just needed to be around an environment. I could never have, you know, when Lester started going online, I always thought that I could never have done it like that. That would never have worked for me. I was just too wild. I just needed taming. I needed taming, and I needed mature kind of people in recovery to help me, hold my hand and walk me along the journey. And it just took me years to kind of defrost and come down. And but I do believe that I'm not in Suffolk anymore, but I do still speak to Lester a lot. And I do believe that the online program that they do, it does work for, probably not for people like me, but for more successful people who fit it around their jobs, or mothers with children who can't get into rehab. So there is a time and a place for the online stuff, for sure, but it definitely wouldn't have been any good for me. I needed to be accountable to people. I needed people there to say, Sonia, turn left, turn right, to do this, do that. And I didn't have a home. I didn't have an iPad. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a phone.
Right. I mean, you just described, like, why is it such a hard notion to have something for everyone supported and funded? I mean, it just seems that, like, this force to be given, you know, just a very narrow window of resources for certain people excludes so many others. I mean, I personally see the use in the beginning, or to aid with the detox of you know, opiate replacement therapies to a certain point. But I think if I got clean 16 years ago and somebody told me that you have to take this for the rest of your life, you know, or for at least 5 years, or to have that sort of say on me, like, where would I be today? And I just think not all of us, you know, are in that time, like Lester described getting clean, you know, 30 years ago, when somebody was doing a 12-step call, somebody was paying attention to me in my addiction enough that, you know, when they found the moment of bringing me to a meeting and I'm inspired. Like, it seems like those days are gone. And here we are, parents, family members, you know, sons and daughters of moms and dads that are sick, you know, Googling the best available resource. And it's so scary to say that I don't know if that's always the answer. So, I mean, I think, like, online, I mean, I was reading into the at-home detoxes, and I think, okay, well, that could have come in handy a few times. you know, like when my parents didn't know what to do and they were afraid to kick me out, and you know what I mean? Like, hey, we can stay and we can do this. Like, I mean, that's a blessing for some people, but to think that so many are excluded from a residential detox where somebody just like me is coming in to check on me and, you know, bring me a glass of orange juice and take me to a meeting later is sad. It's sad, and it's difficult because none of us thought to build evidence for it and track it, you know. But like Giuseppe was saying, behind them, you know, there is evidence. Clearly,
there's plenty of evidence,
right?
But they're not interested in that evidence.
And it's
they're
sad.
interested in the evidence that makes the programs they keep banging. Yeah. Honestly, when you look at it, it's like to me, it seems like it's like they go to the government and go, oh, we've got this problem, and they go, oh, you need to put this liquid on it. And then they put liquid on it and the fire gets bigger, and they go, oh, it's got bigger. They go, well, you need to put more liquid on it. Then they put more liquid. We've got the biggest death rates rising every year for the last 9 years since records begun. Something's badly going wrong. Why is the evidence that they're picking up not showing what it is that's going wrong? What is going wrong? Why is it getting worse when you're spending more money on it? And not only that is, why does that seem to happen across all sectors? It's not even just addiction. It's across everything. There's more money being spent and it's getting worse, and you can't get through to them. When we've got
the mindset,
but we've got incredible success stories that you see there again. Yeah. It's like, look, the people that come from the funded are usually a lot more damaged, and it's not usually addiction, it's that they usually need reparenting. That's why rehabs need to be there for longer. Treating addiction's the same in everybody as far as I can see, but the people that have come from better families generally got higher emotional intelligence, they're more balanced, they usually, so 4 to 6 weeks for them people often is enough.
Yeah.
Because their brains don't need to recover as much. They've got a lot more life skills. But the other guys, who's like Sonia, she was not capable of being out. The bridge for her was 10 years long. The bridge to normal living for them other guys could be 28 days, 6 weeks. But it's determined the bridge. The crazy thing about our government is, and you'll read it in that report, that they said every pound they give people like me, and this is, it's so complicated, addiction, as you know, but this would be my only question if I ever got to talk to them. You said in your report that every pound that you give me, you got a £4 return to society. If you want to monetize it, but that means a lot of less suffering, because like I say, I've never seen a statistic on suffering. So if there's a lot of death, there's a lot of suffering, it stands to reason. Sorry, I've not got evidence of that, but I've got a brain in the head. And
I think Sonia,
but why would you stop giving me the pound? That's the question. Why did you stop giving me the pound and you collapsed 20 years of work, which just we just lost everything? And then it's like they just destroy it, and they come back and go, oh, we've made a real big screw up. Do you want to do it again? And it's like, no, not like this. I don't want to do it again. I don't want anything to do with the government anymore. I don't ever want to be dependent on them. And especially in your country, it looks like it's mine.
It's the same. It's the exact same.
You can see what a bunch of idiots they are in our country. They're just showing it on the news every day. I mean, if you need any more evidence that these people are complete buffoon idiots, then you know, what more evidence do you need? They're like, it's on the screen every day.
Lester,
they haven't got a clue.
our top Canadian healthcare doctor and announced that all like opiate addicts in general cannot recover without lifetime medication. Only alcoholics have a chance.
That's true. That's true for them. That's true.
Yes.
They can't get people to recover. So that's what they do. That's what they believe.
They can't get people to recover and look beyond the, I mean, even if it was just one example out of 100 other people that relapsed, one person, you know, like Sonia's story here from prison.
Sonia was on the front page of her local.
Wouldn't that be enough?
Paper. How many years ago was that song?
2004. I was on the front page.
Why? What for? What were you on the front page for?
I got an ASBO, which is antisocial behaviour order for soliciting, shoplifting, also robberies. I was on the front of the newspaper.
You know,
as like a
evidence, if anyone
beware of this person.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But they haven't printed a front page of where you are now, have they?
No, not yet. I've just moved back to my area. I've just moved 16 years later. I've just moved back to my area, and I'm working for a service. It's not the same service because they've changed a few times, but I'm working for the drug and alcohol services now in Southend, and thankfully, it obviously no one's perfect, but they are really encouraging people to go to meetings. They're really encouraging people to get into groups. They are starting to talk about abstinence. They're starting to, you know, talk about people getting clean, and they're really, really, and that's all from that Dame Carol Black report. They really, and that's not every service, but the service I work in, they're really encouraging people to go to meetings. And I'm having a wonderful experience in there, honestly. It's very difficult and it's very chaotic. And I know loads of people that work in there because obviously they're from my history, but I love it. I like working in there because I'm able to share with them my experience. For the ones that don't know me, majority of them know me, but also I can tell them about the meetings, give them the option of going to meetings and tell them about recovery.
I have a question for you, Sonia. In the beginning of the show, before it started, I was floored when you said the prisons are called Her Majesty's prisons. What did you call it again?
Her Majesty's prison.
Yeah, so that is, I mean, I hope it's as opulent as her Balmoral Castle, but unfortunately, lots of people with addiction issues end up in an institution, and so was there a story of getting any recovery in the institution? What was it like being a woman coming out of an institution and having this disorder and addiction? Or, you know, for any suggestions for anyone listening that might have a son, a daughter, a partner that might be in that same situation, because you think life's over, you're in jail, you know, you got all this stuff. You know, how did you get through it?
Honestly, when I look back, it was devastating. Anyone going into that environment, it's quite scary. You just feel really alone. It's really, really devastating. But as the years have gone on, they've started to get meetings in the prisons. I mean, when I was in the last sentence, they were having NA meetings in there. And I went along a couple of times, and there was a young girl, really pretty young girl, taking the NA meeting, and she was kind of sat there cross-legged and talking about recovery. And I just thought, oh, I just didn't get it. I was probably really jealous of her. I went in there to get a cigarette and a bit of a coffee or something, but I was still too wild at that time. I did want to change my life, but I just didn't get it. But they are talking about meetings a lot more in the prison, and I had the opportunity of going back to the prison where I was last in, and there was one of the senior officers in there done a study on me. She was doing a psychology degree or something, and she used me as her subject. And the outcome of her psychology degree, the thesis that she done, was Sonia is too damaged. She'll never get clean and stay clean. So when I went back to the prison, thankfully I got 10 minutes with her. And I made amends because of part of the program. I made amends with her because I was a bit of a pain in the backside in there. And she said to me, she said, Sonia, I am so sorry. She said, I cannot believe that you've done so much in the last 3 years where I'm still in this same job, doing the same thing, and your life has totally, exploded, and you look amazing. We were both crying. So honestly, it was just a wonderful opportunity.
The
Really
lie is dead.
wonderful.
The lie is dead. Anybody,
Yeah.
everyone can recover. I mean, that's the truth of it. And it doesn't matter how far gone someone thinks you are, or even yourself, there's an opportunity to recover. So we got a few minutes left in the show. Lester or Sonia, so what is Rehabs UK? How do people get involved? Where do people find it? Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, it's an online service that, again, we're trying to develop. We're taking some, because again, over the years, you do learn a lot about addiction, and a lot of it is just educational. We've always talked a lot about the brain. I don't know if you know Dr. Kevin McCauley, if you ever come across him, but he's very good to listen to. So
yes, I do actually.
So we sort of like that sort of stuff, and a bit of quantum physics, like the down the rabbit hole sort of stuff. So we try and introduce people to their brain. We found that made a massive difference. Of saying, look, you've got a brain in your head, your life happens between your ears. It's kind of, if you can take care of this little bit of real estate, you've got half a chance, because you can't depend on getting the good treatment on the outside. So good community work. So the idea of Rehabs UK is to keep getting people going into the treatment that they need, but also trying to develop online groups and services, and promoting our message. So it's trying to keep our foot in to recovery, really. But we I'm a 12-stepper at heart, so I think this is just another phase of just thinking that the goal is now, how do we create, because I always thought, look, best recovery is always going to be in the community. I never went to rehab, I went to Canada.
Caliano Island.
Yeah.
The most beautiful place in the world.
But it had good fellowship. And one thing that I learned, because that what was afforded to me, that people love me till I could love myself. And that's what I've always done and still do for quite a lot of people, is that we just try and make as much time and give them as much direction. So I honestly think that rehab's important. And, but if you can get good, strong communities that don't really cost much, they're not government dependent. It's really only the detox that the government really need to be involved in because of the medication and stuff. But it really is building them strong. So ultimately we try and do it. I try and do everything I can. I know Sonia does. A lot of us, we try and do everything to support as much good understanding in the fellowship. So we try and do as many groups, workshops, of trying to explain what we've learned about addiction, because really the professionals are never going to be the solution to this problem. And
they don't get it.
It's the fellowship and the community is going to be the solution. So, getting people, and it is hard, building fellowship with people in recovery. We fall out with each other a lot, don't we? We get angry and upset and resentful, and it's not the easiest of things, having newbies hanging around you, phoning you, and all the constant traumas that you're sort of caught in with their life. But I think it comes out of that is just like loving people till they love themselves. So the Rehabs UK is a place that we try and help people do good assessments, is a thing that I think we've learned, that help you assess your situation and find out what level of treatment that you need. If people have got no money, then we can direct them at them services. But some people do just need the detox. It works pretty well. Some people do great on groups, because they're knitting them into the fellowship. So it's always an opportunity. We'd never to signpost people into the fellowships and say, look, at the end of the day, that's what's going to give you the longevity that you are going to need. It's that bridge to normal living. It's different length for all different kinds of people, and the amount of support that they need. I mean, you realise, I say, look, everybody's going to need a lot of treatment. Some people are going to need a lot of treatment for a short period of time. Some people are going to need a lot of treatment for a long period of time. But we can't depend on the governments to pay for it. It's got to be built in the community. And so, that's kind of, so not having the rehab, the truth for me is, it's like I get 90% of my life back, and I'm going to turn into an activist, which is why I come on here. And I'm bang preaching to the choir, but I just keep telling people about treatment. We get to talk to doctors, nurses in their A&E. They know nothing about addiction, and like 40% of the people they're seeing have got addiction problems. Once we've done a talk, they're always shocked how little they know.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing how, and again, you'd think that, you know, my dream world would be that they'd be talking program to everyone, because, you know, like I tell people, if I had like 10 seconds left to live and someone said, what's the most important thing you could tell us about addiction? I'd say this: they hear, but they don't understand.
Yeah.
It
Well,
takes
they're
a long time
studying
for them to understand. You have to keep banging it. My first sponsor, Dave in Canada, he said, you catch this through osmosis. Bring your ass, sit it down in that chair. And let it catch up. He said it comes up through your ass.
Well, I mean, and the follow up for these doctors, psychiatrists, you know, these people that are trying to study and learn, you know, what the answers are, and qualify all that information, like to go to a prison, look at Sonia, you know, watch how she behaves, write an outcome for the rest of her life. Okay, yeah. If somebody wrote my future a week before I got clean, it would have been, maybe it doesn't even make it a week, right? Mm-hmm. But it's there's more to it. What if we offer this? What happens after a year? What if we offer that? What happens to the human psyche, to the human spirit? I mean, for you to have to go back and interrupt her and like tap her on the shoulder and be like, hi, remember me? I mean, why are we having to prove our stories and our evidence? You know, why are we not being studied? And I guess maybe we need more volunteers to you know, and
I don't think so. I've come to the conclusion, look, their minds are never going to accept what I say.
They're made up.
I've had years of them coming and saying that. They've seen it. They've seen the amazing success stories we have. They admit it. They go, it's fantastic. They all admit that. They can see that. But they never ask how you're doing it, because then you start explaining about the environment and saying, look, these people need to redevelop their neural pathways. The drugs that you're giving them are going to make that impossible.
Well, and I think
the
we've
human
also
brain
found
grows to suit the environment that it's in. So if you know, I always try and explain it this way. I say, look, when I go to the new rollout of what I call the new social experiment that they do, they roll it out, and using this analogy, it's like a fruit and veg shop. It's like, oh, you've got lovely carrots, you've got lovely potatoes, you've all got lovely uniforms, but they're like, why is it not working? I'm going, because these people have got potassium deficiency and you've got no bananas, which I see as recovery. And they go, well, you would say that because you sell bananas. It's like, well, that's true. I do sell bananas. But you can give them all the other fruit and veg you want, but if they got a potassium deficiency, but I kind of flip that as well with people in recovery, because it's like, you can't live on bananas, you lot. You need some of that other treatment as well. But well, it's like,
I mean, it's so true. And Sonia, you know, I'm just wondering, like, I know there's part of a desire, almost a sense of duty to change the minds of others, and I'm sure Lester, it's been a frustrating part of the journey as well. But really, at the end of the day, every conversation we've had with people who know, like-minded people who just know what the solution is and are in a logical and rational realm, is it okay that it stops being about changing the political movement and just being there for the new person or for the sick people that are seeking help? Like, how is that you know, still an inspiration for you, Sonia?
Sorry, what was the question? Sorry.
Like, is it important to you to use your story less about, you know, changing the political minds and more just being there for people like yourself and being an inspiration?
Definitely. I think that the more people that I can speak to, the more people that I get a chance that want me in their life, for me to be a part of their process, the bigger the fellowship will be, and the more people, then you can see more people getting clean. And I remember I was walking around in Southend when I was about 2-3 years clean, and I remember I see this policeman that I know, and he done about a 20, not a double take. He was like, oh my God. And he went, that's never Sonia Pewter. He said, I cannot believe it. Literally cannot believe it. So I think it's important. It's important for me to be back in Southend. It's important for me to do what I do. It's important for me to go to my little CA meeting every week. It's important for me to talk to people on the phone. I mean, I have to kind of find a balance.
What's OCA?
CA.
Oh, CA. Oh, I thought I heard
Yeah.
OCA. Oh, perfect.
No.
OCA meeting. Awesome. Yay.
Yeah. So
For those that don't know,
it's
that's
important
Cocaine Anonymous. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's important for me to kind of do what I'm doing to remain active. I mean, when the first few years, that's all, like Lester was talking, that's all I was doing. And I needed to be pushed in to go get a membership at the gym, Sonia, go swimming, go and do something, go and do this, what do you want to do? What do you enjoy doing? Go and get a holiday. It was kind of like that for me. I needed to go and be forced really and encouraged to go and to do some normal stuff rather than just meetings. So now I've found a balance.
Hey, Sonia, it's called building recovery capital, human capital,
That's
social capital, physical capital. It's what we all do. And if I can give you any bit of advice, Lester, one of the problems we've all had in the recovery communities, we've done a lot of talk therapy and we haven't written anything down. And, this recovery capital movement, which is all part of David Best in the UK, it's about, taking this opportunity to understand, like, going to the gym has just as much value as taking your medication, sitting with your psychiatrist, and how does this all have to do with building your recovery capital? And what happens is you have better health. I can give you safe supply hydromorph every day and stick you in a room that's, 4 feet by 10 feet called an SRO, but you're not taking care of your health. You're not eating well. You're not doing anything else. He's breathing. So this is saving his life, but is it giving him a life? And that's where we need to take a look fundamentally as a society, is like, what is the barometer of life? And if breath is obviously important, no one's going to argue that, but what about the quality of life? And we're running out of time. This has been a great show. Sounds like the UK is just as screwed up as Canada. Yay, happy applause there. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio. We come to you live every Thursday noon to 1:01 p.m. And thank you, Co-op Radio, but we got to go and sign out. Time for the next show. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for the tip on Carol Black. I'm going to take a look at that. And Darren, always good to see you on Thursdays.
Thank you guys very much for joining us today all the way from England.
So you can,
it's been a pleasure.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. And it's drugs. It's Digital UK Rehab Movement. Google it, you'll find it, and all the information is there. And they're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they're all over the place. Website is rehabsuk.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.